Hey, this is Franz Cantor, cartoonist, illustrator, and toon talker. I forgot who I am. Who the hell am I? And I'm here with
Jim Burgess, and I'm the president of the Australian Cartoon Museum.
Fantastic. We're doing a book review today, which is very, very special. This is a book called Fun with a Pencil by the great Andrew Loomis.
How everybody can easily learn to draw.
Right. This is published by Titan Books. It's never really been out of print since 1938, and he has been recommended over the years in various art colleges and learning to draw, learning to draw courses, etc. And originally, it's dedicated to everyone who loves a pencil, right? So, people none other than Norman Rockwell have recommended him and used his methods, his books in drawing classes. So Andrew Loomis, as you see by the look of this, the characters that he specializes in, is peculiar. He has a peculiar style, which is part him and part 1930s. So it's very much, the style of it is very much locked in time. However, the principles of learning to draw from a very simple start, like a circle. If you can draw a circle or a potato, then you can draw, because he actually explains how to create very good complex forms with very simple shapes.
He could have taught Giotto to draw.
Yeah, well, actually, drawing in fine art, drawing realistic figures is very simple, very similar to drawing cartoon characters. You start with very simple building blocks. So you start to think of solids, cubes and cylinders and spheres. In fact, the sphere itself is a very important principle in all of his drawing of the head, because as you can see, it's the starting block for the face.
So, with your experience, you're saying that this is not just a how-to-draw cartoon book.
No, it's a how-to-draw book.
Right.
So you can use these principles. The idea of breaking something complex down into very simple geometrical shapes so that you can easily get a handle on
get
perspective.
Get results quickly.
Yeah, get results in terms of perspective and solidity and understanding light and shade and proportion. It's very, very important. So this the introduction chapter about the sphere or the ball is a very impressive and very important part of the process. So as you can see, starting from a very simple shape, any shape at all, he has the ability to progress it into a very complex, very expressive cartoon head. But the principles of taking something simple and then expanding it into something more complex is the same principle whether you're drawing a realistic face or a cartoon face. Doesn't matter. It's the same.
That looks so simple.
Yeah.
And yet, if you started that and you finished with that and you just started drawing, you'd feel terrific because you'd felt...
Yes, but you mustn't start here. You must start here.
Yeah.
You've got to get this in your head, and this in your head, and this in your head first. See?
Yeah.
So this will give you the reason why these heads are looking like crash test dummies, why they're so stylized. What does this line, the brow line, mean? What does this center line mean? Well, it's all explained here about axes. Okay, so that's very important.
Latitude and longitude.
Exactly. So it goes into some very simple construction of the different forms, adding to the circle, adding to the construction, the basic principles of taking a simple form and then adding. So it's an additive process, adding cheeks, adding nose, adding ears, but starting with the right perspective so that you're able to add them in the proper relation to the perspective of the head, the angle of the head, the tilt of the head, etc., etc. But given that, you can get quite a lot of variety in the spaces of the forms that you attach to this very simple shape. So again, you know,
That page
exploring, trying
explains
to
what
get
you were
into your
talking
head
before.
the idea of the tilt and the angle of the sphere. That will help you understand the head in perspective. Remember, Bugs Bunny's head is in perspective. It's drawn in perspective. The whole idea of animation, of drawing a highly stylized and elastic cartoon character, even a Pikachu, comes from the ability to draw a realistic head in perspective. So you're able to tilt the angle of the eyes and mouth correctly. Proportions, of course, in cartoon are exaggerated, but I find that the process of exaggerating forms, exaggerating shapes on the face, you know, making the chin bigger, making the nose bigger, the ears bigger, so you're aligning yourself to a caricaturist sensibility, but in so doing, you're actually learning more and a lot quicker accurate proportions and accurate shapes and accurate depictions of angles and lines. So these are very valuable. You know what's the most valuable thing here is not these particular types that you're drawing here, which are obviously 1930s sorts of characters from his pantheon of stars, but the basic construction methods that he uses in order to get to these endpoints. So the heads are done in correct perspective. Very important to use this process.
They're starting from perspective straight away,
Yeah.
not tacking it on later on.
No, you can't tackle it later on. You've got to tackle it from the start, because that will give you the right building blocks, the right sort of spatial parameters and
He likes bald men, doesn't
yeah. Well, the bald man means you just see the sphere clearer. So as an exercise, bald men to start with, or babies or something, you know, is a very good way of exploring this idea. See, it all starts with this sphere. You can see with the latitude lines and the center lines, so you know where not only how the head is tilting, how the head is turned, but how it's tilted and how it's sort of rotated in space.
You won't end up with the eyes too close together, or
Yeah, oftentimes you'll see a what do you call it? A pole.
yeah.
A pole depicted, so that you get an idea of what's the top part of the sphere. So if you think of this, it's very easy then to extrapolate that into a face. So the again, very simple shapes and adding, you know, things, bits and pieces to the circle to get all of these different things, but all of these different cartoon character faces. But you can see the perspective is the important thing. So the perspective and the tilt and the angle of the sphere determines what happens with the end result. So this works with very realistic characters as well. You can start to see the skull develop.
It just looks abstract, and as soon as you put
Yeah.
that line there,
Yeah,
it's
that's the center line,
yeah.
representing the line going between the eyes, down the nose, and slicing through the mouth. So that is important because you know what the rotation of the head is going to be like.
This is interesting too, the way it goes
Into a block.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, everything you draw, think of geometry.
Yeah.
Pyramids, spheres,
Yeah.
and cubes.
Yeah.
Right? That's very simple. So it's taking the stress out of drawing. Now this is projecting the face, so we're starting to
Transposing.
Yeah, so lining things up. When you turn the head, you know, when you rotate the head, you've got to also think of lining these things up. So it's giving you indication of all these lines representing where the nose should be, where the mouth should be, the lips should be, the ears should be, the eyes, the eyebrow, etc., etc. And now when you distort the face, he's starting a dialogue on how you should be thinking when you're distorting the face for for changing the perspective, and you get the different sort of looks that you should be after. So if you're looking down on the head, for example, the top part of the head is bigger, so you can see.
I mean, if you start from there and just look at all those expressions, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. So again, a variety of cartoon shapes. Now you're getting into the complex idea of slicing the sides of the sphere. So you're creating a skull, more of a skull shape. Here it is example, right? There's a line of where the ear is attached, the eye line, the brow line, the nose, and where you put the front part of the face, the jowls, etc. So again, this helps you construct a head that's quite realistic, even though this is 1930s man, 1930s Ken. The features are not the style of the hair and the mannequins.
He looks like a German Olympian.
yeah, that's not important. The construction is important. So again, changing the attributes after you construct the sphere, you start to change a lot of the things that you add on will give you different effects, different faces. So they're getting into bulgy brows, square heads, high brows, etc., etc. And then you have a more finished example, and again, changing these add-on attributes that add on to this sphere.
Is that what Dr. Doom looks like?
Yeah.
Underneath.
Yeah. This is like drawing a female head of the era, 1930s, 1940s. So you can see by the features and the hair, etc. Again, very.
He's pretty good, isn't he?
Yeah. Very sound construction methods. Again, exploring different cartoons, but starting with a basic construction. So you're able to draw a sphere in perspective, you're able to draw a cartoon in perspective. That's the principle. Now we get into something a bit more complex, is drawing a cartoon figure, and this is actually made up again of very simple shapes. This is the thorax, this is the hips, right? And the limbs are made up of joints and straights. So no squiggles and no sausage arms. This is perhaps more representative of... the idea behind this is like you change the proportions, you get a different effect. So if you do caricatures, which are typically like balloon heads and small bodies, and you can reverse the whole process. Yeah. But if you think of a construction of the figure based on these solids and straights and joints, right? Remember the joints here. The arms are not stuck onto the thorax. There's actually a shoulder bone here.
Each drawing has finished quality.
Collarbone.
Each drawing has a finished quality, like it's...
Yeah, it's a perfect mannequin. This is a perfect mannequin.
Yes, better than those wooden things.
Yeah. So with that, I mean, there's a lot of, explanation of balance and contrapposta, see opposing angles of the collarbones and the hips. That gives you a more of an access into the world of the gesture. So you're able to capture the pose.
Well, look at that. If that was a robot, it looks more like a human. Just those balance,
so even though,
those lines.
See that, it's walking towards the camera.
Yes.
But the angles and everything are very expressive. So the gesture is very, very accurate.
Yeah, the bending there. See that?
Yeah. Even with this is obviously an exaggeration of the gesture, but in order to understand the gesture, sometimes it's better to exaggerate, because then you get more feeling of the gesture, more feeling of the action.
Yeah. Look at the shift of weight there.
But starting with a simple, correct mannequin, right? You're able to then do the exaggeration. You're able to then proceed. So it doesn't matter whether you're doing a cartoon character or whether you're doing a more realistic character. The action is the action is the most important thing, the most important part of drawing the figure. Here you have
The dreaded sausages.
well, yes, but even with the sausages, you can see that they're not really connected. They're not sausages as such.
They're the main muscles, aren't they? Like down here.
Well,
down here. Look,
they're the masses.
They're the main muscle.
Yeah, the muscle masses.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the muscle masses. But they're constructed from a sound stick figure.
Oh, yeah.
This is a stick figure on steroids. This is one of the best ways of depicting the figure, of starting the figure, because then you're able to get the gesture
If you get it
accurately.
right in the first place...
Doesn't matter if it's a cartoon character.
No, if you get it right
exaggerate
in the first place, it's going to be easier.
Yeah, much easier. You
Down
can
the track.
extrapolate into the details of the body of the figure, of the character, from a very simple process of understanding how things are constructed underneath. That's why you use a blue pencil, folks. This is something I'm not a fan of.
No.
This is
And
him.
it doesn't look anything like Groucho Marx.
No, but what he's trying to do here is give you some sketching examples so you can sketch poses, but not to draw this mannequin, to draw the stick figure. Okay?
Yeah.
Remember to start with the sticks.
Yeah.
Very important. Sticks again. This is a realistic figure. Look, sticks again. Mass again. See the thorax. See the triangular block of the hips. See the angle of the collarbone and the hips, the contrapposta. And he's exaggerated the proportions here to create a more of a cartoony character, but it's the same process. So he's exaggerated the stick figure and then just simply extrapolated from there. Underneath baggy clothing, you can see the skeleton. Always use that process, always, because that's going to inform your gesture. It's going to inform your drawing. Now, this is quite interesting. This is actually very good for you to understand.
Retro suits.
Yeah, well, the idea of suit is the draped figure makes you think of like when you're drawing clothes on a figure, you have to understand the dynamics of creases, the dynamics of the fabric, but also the dynamics of the tights and the loose and the bunches and the pinches and the droops of various figures and where the tension lines are, etc., etc. If you can understand this process, you'll be able to draw clothes on a figure from your imagination.
Any fabric, any modern, whatever,
Yeah. If you were to persist with this, if you were to do these exercises and draw as he is asking you to do,
stress lines.
Yeah.
Just going from one.
it's very important to keep drawing these and understand what they represent on the figure. These are accurately drawn from life. Accurately drawn from life. Well, we don't really use hats so much anymore, but it's an understanding of a fairly complex object, broken down into very simple construction shapes.
Uncle Scrooge.
Yeah.
Deputy Dog.
Yeah, well then, understanding the simplicity of starting with simple, the process of starting with simple shapes to get something quite complex,
And get the angle
whether
right.
it be cartoon or not,
How it
realistic.
fits on the head.
Yeah.
How it fits on the head.
Same thing with anything, with
interesting.
hands. Start to think of hands in smaller bits, because hands are very scary to draw.
So he's not going from bones at all, is he?
No, he doesn't. Not for the hands. The hands are like functional joints and things. So they're just.
But so many things go from the skeleton. When you learn anatomy and stuff.
Yeah.
He's talking about basic shape, which
Basic shapes.
Yeah.
See that bone there represents the knuckle to knuckle.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's what he's asking you to think of that when you draw the knuckle to knuckle.
It's quite sophisticated too.
forefinger.
That's quite sophisticated.
Yeah. Even though it's exaggerated to understand the form. Again, simple shapes
Soap
will get
bubbles.
you a perfect,
Two pairs. Two balls and a horseshoe.
underdrawing for the final result. So this is the process. He always draws from the simple rough shape to the more detailed one. You know, stick figures. When in doubt, stick figures. That will get you where you want to go. Stick figures again. So, you know, these are very obviously 1930s tropes of the time. The characters, you know, borderline
Racist.
insensitive, racist, but, you know...
Bow-legged Indians.
Yeah. Sort of caricaturing racial types, racial stereotyping. And, you know, very uncool by today's standards. But at the time, you know, you're talking about having to have cartoon tropes that are easily recognized by the reader. It helps the speed of the reading of the picture.
That's
This is more
balance,
my
the
liking,
balance,
where you have slapstick and humor and actual human responses to, you know, stresses and
Spider-Man.
strains. Yeah, diving into water, missing a golf ball, missing a shuttlecock or whatever it is. You know, hurting your hips bowling. This is more. I'm not sure how effective this is, but the idea there is, you know.
Well, I mean, look at the legs. They're
somewhat
funny. They're
caricatured.
funny. He's got a watch on a foot. Oh, more transposition.
Yeah, well, it's lining up the different features so that you can get to turn the figure.
Yeah,
It's very
he's teaching you right from the early on to get the space, to think spatially while you're drawing, not just flat. You know.
You have to think in terms of 3D form.
Yeah, but right from the word
So-
go with
Yeah.
the ball and the lines. You know?
So now we're going to the last part of the book, which is how to draw perspective. It's creating a world that your figures can work in. So there's some examples of 2-point perspective and single-point perspective. Some things to watch for when you're drawing and when you're laying your work out. You know, right and wrong ways of using perspective. This is very valuable, looking up at the figure and looking down at the figure and seeing how all of the lines line up to the horizon line. So, you know, the line of the hips, the waist, the breasts, the collarbone, etc.
And the cylinder that's sliced in the
So
sections.
thinking in terms of the perspective, if you were to draw this model, then the idea is that helps you understand the perspective of the volume of the figure. Okay, more examples of that. The idea behind this is solid maths, of course, but it represents the real world, so you're able to draw a table from your imagination once you understand the idea, the principles of perspective, single point, 2-point perspective, and 3-point perspective. I don't think he goes into 3-point perspective here. But yeah, so these are very important to lay out things in terms of how big they are in the picture. There's a little bit of compositional understanding.
touch of colour.
Yep. Now we're getting into the principles of light and shade, and it's more maths in terms of you know, the light source and where the light source, where the shadows have to be in terms of where the light source comes from. Again, you know, heavily based on perspective, the laws of perspective. So, yeah, this is very handy to understand it. I mean, you can just develop a crude understanding of light and shade in terms of direction. And this is very handy.
Dramatic lighting
Yeah.
at the bottom.
And then obviously, you know, expand from there. So, again, this is the most important part of the book, and this is what he's the best. This book is known for, to be able to construct realistic heads or cartoon heads from very simple sound geometrical origins.
And of course, finish on pretty girls.
Yeah, this is his daughter.
Very nice. Looks very Ingrid Bergman.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a very typical style of the period, the 1930s and 40s, very elegant.
And here's the man himself.
Yep. So long.
And see, he is left-handed. It's not flipped over.
Yeah.
He's left-handed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
great. All right.
Let's just have a look at this.
There's the cover. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's obviously one of the best books I've ever seen. I've got the Australian Cartoon Museum has about 500 books in its library on how to draw, and I think this has got to be my favourite, and I'm glad you decided to do this.
Awesome.
Yeah, and he's obviously left-handed too.
Yes. All right. Okay, this is Franz Cantor.
And Jim Bridges.
And we'll catch you next time.
Okay, bye-bye.